Hello everybody, welcome to Nostalgia Goggles. I'm Chris, also a social gaming nerd, and I'm kind of doing a marathon. It's a marathon that's going to span many months. I'm kind of in a race, which I probably won't win, against trying to release all these videos out before Kingdom Hearts 4 comes out. Wish me luck. But with that being said, today we're going to talk about Kingdom Hearts, one of my favorite games of all time. Now, I know that there's a lot of Kingdom Hearts games. Heck, this is just a lot of the first one, but there's a lot of Kingdom Hearts games, and I kind of wanted to make a video series talking about which ones are worth playing and which ones aren't, and if they hold up or not. So, with that being said, let's start with the first one. Now, before we get into this isn't going to come out consecutively. These are going to take some time to come out. With that being said, though, let's get into it. So the story of Kingdom Hearts begins in two places. First part is set in the Disney castle, where Captain Goofy and Donald the Magician discover King Mickey has gone missing, leaving only a letter instructing them to find the one chosen by the Keyblade. The second part of the story is on Destiny Island. You play as Sora. You and your best friend Riku and Kairi talk about exploring other worlds outside of your little island. After having to fight Heartless for the first time, Sora is revealed to be the Keyblade wielder, and the island is swallowed by darkness. Sora awakens in Trevor's Town, and is found by Donald and Goofy. The three learn that the same darkness that consumed Destiny Island is coming for the other worlds, being controlled by the evil council of Disney villains led by Maleficent, as they are trying to summon the power of Kingdom Hearts, which has an inconsistent set of requirements. In this game, they plan on doing it by capturing the 7 Princesses of Heart, and covering the world in darkness. So Sora, Donald, and Goofy agree to team up and lock the worlds, while searching for Riku and Kairi and the King together. So with that being said, I feel like this is me just summarizing the plot of the game, and there's a lot more to it. Not much more, but there's a lot more to it. There's even a twist within this game. But all in all, I think that the story is very fun and compelling. I feel like, though, if you're more curious about the story, you should definitely play this game. It's worth it. It is definitely worth it. With that being said, let's move on to the gameplay. So Kingdom Hearts has two different versions of itself, which are the PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4 versions. I am not putting the numbers in, I will die before I do that. But there's also the PlayStation 2 version. So let me get this out of the way. The PlayStation 2 version is a completely different game almost. I feel like that's a little dramatic, but the most later versions are more or less of a remake of Kingdom Hearts, because Kingdom Hearts is somewhere down the line, to my knowledge. I could have gotten this information wrong. My show isn't about being accurate, it's about asking if a game holds up. But to my knowledge, they were not able to get Kingdom Hearts 1 up and running on the PlayStation because they lost the data, so they kind of had to remake the game, and it shows. Kingdom Hearts 1 is fine at the end of the day. Realistically, it doesn't use the camera controls as what you would expect it to. Instead, you have to use L1 and R1, I believe, or whatever. Those buttons are the ones you have to use to move the camera, but outside of that, Kingdom Hearts really just kind of stays the same. In the idea of between which one you can play, they kind of stay the same. Kingdom Hearts, all in all, at the end of the day, is an action RPG, right? That's really what this comes down to, and outside of that, both versions do a phenomenal job at being an action RPG. It's also a very interesting action RPG, because at the time, this was not what action RPGs looked like. Action RPGs were something more or less of the Tales series or the Secret of Mana series, and that's kind of where the action RPGs were. This one goes above and beyond for being a 3D action RPG, one that is still kind of living today. That's why Final Fantasy is the way it is because of Kingdom Hearts. Kingdom Hearts is very influential with that, but another thing that's really great about Kingdom Hearts is that it doesn't put its RPG side, it doesn't fall flat, right? You still have to grind within this game. Not super much, and I don't even say you have to 100% grind, but I like to, because it works out very well because you have action points in this game, which allow you to customize Sora, Donald, and Goofy, which are your teammates within this game. And you're able to customize them by allowing them to do special moves, add to their combos, allow them to do more magic, yada yada. Action points are beautiful. But all in all, this game still is an RPG through and through. It doesn't forget what it is, and I really like that. There is way more to this game that you can do within the levels themselves, but I feel like if you really want to hear me talk about that, I'm not going to. You should play the game yourself. There's no reason why you shouldn't. And last but not least, the last thing I feel like I want to talk about within this game is the gummy ship segment. The gummy ship segment in this game is okay. It's like It's a space shooter kind of thing. It's the way you get from world to world, because that's the thing you do in this game. You go from world to world. You do that through the gummy ship, which is just okay. I'm not the biggest fan of the gummy ship. It's not the worst thing ever. This is, in truth though, this is the worst gummy ship segment to me. They're probably, you know, nope, this is the worst gummy ship segment to me. And it's just because it's boring. Now, luckily, you don't have to do it too much. You just have to do it once, especially since later on in the game, you do get a warp drive, which as long as you've been to the planet or the world, as long as you've been to the world, you can just warp to it after you've already been to it, which really cuts down on time. The gummy ship segments aren't the worst though, because it does help with crafting, so it's like a necessary evil, but I mean, And one last thing I do want to talk about gameplay. Nope, that's it. So all in all, the gameplay for this game is super solid, and I feel like you should just play the game if you're curious about it. It still holds up super well to this day. I absolutely love coming back to it. The only warning that I would have to say though is that the PS2 one definitely does not use the second stick as the way you would think it would, and that's not even a big problem. It's something that you can get used to really quickly. The game itself still works out super well. So with that being said, let's move on to the presentation. Kingdom Hearts presentation is outstanding. This game itself is outstanding, but the presentation is one of the best things about this game. And that's even hard to say because this game has a lot of things that are great about it. All in all, this game is just great. But the presentation itself is great as well because this is the first time we see Disney characters in 3D. Why is that important? Well, because that's a Herculean task in and of itself. These characters, especially since most of them are from the Disney Renaissance, were drawn and animated in such a beautiful way that it's kind of hard to imagine them in a 3D space. Plus, having some of the classical ones like Alice in Wonderland be put in the 3D space is just interesting because it hasn't been done before, and it's very, very, to me, faithful, and I really, really like it. And it's interesting. They did a really good job. With that being said, another thing they did really good with this one is having Final Fantasy characters within this game. They are not their respected game counterparts. They are very close to them, at least when it comes to Yuffie, Squall, and Aerith. Cloud's kind of the outlier, being a fusion of Vincent and Cloud, but still it's interesting, and that's something else that kind of brings you to the game. These are not one-to-one their Final Fantasy counterparts, but I think that that's kind of what makes it great. It gives you intrigue, and that's really what this game needs to do, give you intrigue to both franchises. That's what a good crossover does. It makes you curious about the other ones, and this one does a great job by having Final Fantasy characters throughout the game, or at least having them have interesting stories. Another thing that comes to mind while talking about presentation is the music. This is a perfect fusion between original and Disney music. The Disney music is really good, obviously, because it's Disney, but the original music is also just outstanding. I absolutely love it. Another thing I want to talk about presentation as well, and the last thing I want to talk about is the Heartless. The Heartless are some of the most interesting, unique, and I would argue greatest when it comes to enemy design. Because not only are they able to be super cute and unassuming, but also be able to be some of the most threatening and malevolent looking creatures out there. I am not trying to jump, but the way that they've made Heartless's work is just great. And I think that that's kind of hard to do. When it gets right down to enemy design, if you're trying to make it cute but also threatening, it's hard to do, and this game does a great job at that. All in all, this game's presentation, this whole episode I feel super under-equipped to do because there's so much that there's a interesting place that I have for this game and an interesting love that I have for this game that makes me very, 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 very nervous to talk about it because I absolutely love this game. And what does this have to do with presentation, you're asking? Well, it's because this game swept me away from how it looks and sounds more than anything else. I remember the trailer of seeing this game and just being enamored with it, obsessed with it. I'm still obsessed with it to this day, and this is why presentation is important for a game, because how it looks and sounds is almost as important as how it plays, because if it looks and sounds cool, it's got you hooked. Now, Kingdom Hearts, luckily, as you've heard in the gameplay section, is able to match up with this, but that's why it's so hard for me to talk about this game in full, is because all in all, it presents itself super well, and it also plays super well, but none of that matters if you can't get your hands on it. So with that being said, let's move on to accessibility. So Kingdom Hearts has been released a lot of times, okay? A lot of times. So Kingdom Hearts originally came out for the PS2. Kingdom Hearts for the PS2 will set you back about $16 to $24. Not bad. Depending on how crazy you are, there's also the Final Mix, which is a Japanese-only game, technically, and it'll set you back about $15 to $70 to $60. The biggest problem with this one is that there are multiple ways to get your hands on this game, and also most people kind of sell this game not just alone, but with the Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix, which will normally that goes for 20 to 40 something bucks, which is I think that's great realistically. But it's kind of useless if you don't have a Japanese PS2 or if you don't, mod your PS2. There is the PS3 release of this game, which is Kingdom Hearts 1.5 Remix, which is kind of your answer for Kingdom Hearts Final Mix. Like, this is it kind of is the Final Mix equivalent, so I feel like this is the better way to get it, and you will pay about $9 realistically. That is, you can pay up to $17, but realistically it's not super expensive. PS4 has 2 releases of this game, which are the Kingdom Hearts 1.5 and 2.5 remixes, which will set you back about $10, and $10 to $12 realistically. And last but not least, there's the Kingdom Hearts story so far, which will set you back about $19 to $18 to $20 to $30. It's pretty cheap. I feel like, in truth, if you're going to buy any of these games realistically, the two that I feel like are the most different, honestly, are the original game and the PS4 version of Kingdom Hearts. The reason why I say the original is because if you want the original way to play the game, and if you want to see what it originally was, that's the way to do it. But if you want the game itself and you just want all of them to play just for the story and also all the new things, Kingdom Hearts, the story so far, is the best way. It comes with so many games. So with that being said, this game is very accessible, and I love it, and I hope it continues to be very accessible. And these are just ways you can buy the game. There is a digital way to play this game, though, and so either way, you're going to be able to play Kingdom Hearts. This game is super accessible. With that being said, let's move on to the goods and the bads. This game is outstanding, and there's nothing you can tell me otherwise to say that it's not. This game as a first outing is outstanding. This game as a game is outstanding. This game is just one of my favorite games of all time, and it never will not be. I cannot praise this game enough. I cannot tell you enough to just play this game. It is beautiful how much this game has meant to me and how well it holds up today. Kingdom Hearts 1 holds up so well that you can play it and stop here. When it comes to the franchise, it is a game that stands on its own outside of the franchise because of the way that it just is, and I love it. I love the way that this game plays. I love the way that this game sounds. I love the way that this game looks. I love the way that the story carries itself. I just love Kingdom Hearts, and there's not much more I can say. I feel like that this is a very biased take on this game. If you are looking for a more nuanced take, I guess I can give it to you, but I don't know exactly how to. As I said in presentation, I do not feel equipped for this episode, but that's because I feel like there's so much to talk about. I feel like the Kingdom Hearts episode itself realistically could be a multi-level podcast. That's how much I love this game. That's how much I have to say about this game, and I feel like this episode could easily be an hour if I let myself be it, but I'm not that kind of reviewer. I'm asking the question of if this game holds up, and spoiler alert, it absolutely does. I normally like to kind of try to keep the final sections, but like, hey, this is it. This is beautiful. This game's beautiful. There's not much more I can say. With that being said, let's move on to the bads. I guess the gummy shit, but if that's the worst thing about this game, get over it. With that being said, let's move on to the final thoughts. So, I don't know. I'm just gonna say this one. Is Kingdom Hearts 1 worth playing today? The answer is yeah. Now, I think when it gets right down to it, well, this one is kind of hard to play. And this one is kind of obsolete, but I think when it gets right down to it, these are kind of the options of where I think you should go when it comes down to playing Kingdom Hearts, and even then, I feel like this one is kind of the way to go, because it has a lot of new things in it, and it kind of is like the final mix version, to my knowledge. So I think all in all, it's worth playing. This is kind of the one I think you should go for, but as you can see, there's no shortage of ways to play this. So with that being said, What's your favorite Kingdom Hearts game? What do you think about Kingdom Hearts 1? Do you still think it's worth playing today? You know my answer. With that being said, I'll see you guys next time here on Nostalgia Goggles, where if you're watching the retrospective, I'm jumping immediately into Chain of Memories with a guest. So, yeah. See you guys next time!